I'd ask you to pray for Christian as he brings the word. I asked him a few weeks ago if he would be able to speak before the Lord's Supper, and he's agreed to do so. Pray for him as he brings the word.
Hey everyone, you all hear me? Cool. So the team that wins the playoffs in the NHL, they're awarded a trophy called the Stanley Cup, and the Stanley Cup is a real illustrious award. Every team wants it. One of the really cool things about the cup is the names of every player on each team that wins the cup are inscribed on the side of the cup, so you can see everyone that won it. These names, they don't really matter. I believe they're in alphabetical order. It doesn't really matter when the player joins the team. They all get their name on a cup. When the Blues won it, they had Vladimir Tarasenko was one of the guys, and he had been with the organization for 9 years. And then you had other players like Ryan O'Reilly, who it was his first year. They joined the summer before they won the cup. And then you had other players like Jordan Binnington, who had just recently joined the team in January or December. So he was only with the team for about 5 months, 5 or 6. But they all got their names on the cup. They all got the same award as others on the team. It didn't matter when they joined, it only mattered if they joined. As when I was younger, especially before my team won the cup, I didn't really get that. It didn't make much sense to me why someone who had been pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the team for their half of their adult life would get the same reward as someone who only recently joined. But as I got older, and especially because my team did win the cup, I now understand that every player, they contributed to get the cup, and therefore they all deserve the same reward. Tonight's parable, as I've been preaching through the parables for the last couple times I've done sermons, tonight's parable will be in the same vein as that picture of the names on the Stanley Cup I just mentioned. It'll be the one about the workers in the vineyard. And that's in Matthew 20, so if you want to turn there, that's where I'll be reading from. And so Matthew 20, starting in verse 1. The kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers in his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. He went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard. And whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way. Again he went out about the 6th and 9th hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out, and found others standing idle, and saith unto them, Why stand ye here all the day idle? They said unto him, Because no man hath hired us. He saith unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard. Whatsoever is right, that shall ye receive. So when even was come, the Lord of the vineyard saith unto his steward, Call the laborers, and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. And when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more. And they likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they murmured against the good man of the house, saying, These last have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which are borne the burden in the heat of the day. But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst not thou agree with me for a penny? Take that thine is, and go thy way. I will give unto the last even as unto thee. Is it not lawful for me to do what I want, what I will, with mine own? Is thine eye evil because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. This parable was intended to represent the kingdom of heaven, or the way and the method of gospel dispensation. The laws of the kingdom are plainly set down, but the mysteries of that kingdom are often delivered in parables and sacraments. The duties of Christianity are more necessary to us than the notions are. But the notions of it are more necessary to be illustrated than the duties, which is what the parables are for. In short, the duties are more necessary, but they're also easier to grasp than the notions. So therefore, it's essential that the notions be illustrated this way. This parable also explains the claim made in the last chapter, where it says that many that are first shall be last, and the last first, which had a seeming contradiction in it. The principal scope of the parable was to show that the Jews who were first called into the vineyard, and many did come at the call, but the Gentiles also need the gospel. and they should get equal privileges and advantages with the Jews, or with those called first. They should be included with the saints, which traditionally the Jews detested. This parable also shows us that God is a debtor to no man, which is a great truth which the contents in our Bible give us the scope of this parable. Many who begin last, they arrive at greater spiritual attainments than others whose entrance was earlier. Sometimes those even who are converted later in their lives will outdo those who have been saints from the beginning of theirs. And for example, Paul was as one born out of due time. Yet he came not behind the chiefest of the apostles. He outdid those that were in Christ long before him. This reward is given to the saints, not according to the time of their conversion, but according to God's grace alone. It's a matter of if, not when. If they convert and receive God, not when they do it. Christ promised great glory to his followers, but now he tells them that those in like manner to him shall have the same reward. They all will have the same reward. They shall sit with Christ on his throne, as well as the apostles, which Revelation 2:26 through 3:21 make clear. All sufferers for Christ will have the same reward with the martyrs and the confessors of old. Faithful ministers today will have the same reward as the first fathers who built the church. Now, there are two parts in this parable. First, there's the agreement with the laborers, and then there's the account made with them and the discourse that spawns. So first, the agreement with the laborers, and it's found in verses 1-7. So who hires them? Well, it's a householder. God is the great householder. As a householder, he has work that must be done, and servants who will do that work. He has a great family in heaven and earth, and they're in fact named by Christ. He's the owner and the ruler of all. God hires laborers not because he needs them or the services that they provide, but instead because he's a generous householder, one who lets the poor man work out of his own kindness. He saves them from idleness and poverty and pays them for working in his field. So where are they hired from? They're hired out of the marketplace. Till we're hired to God's service, we stand idle all day. Men's souls stand ready to be hired to a service. All creatures are created to work. And the devil, by his temptations, he's hiring laborers into his field. But God, by the gospel, he hires laborers in his vineyard, into his paradise work. We must choose who we serve. Till we're hired by God, we are standing idle all day long in a sinful state. Sinners are doing nothing, and especially not the great work which they were sent into the world to accomplish. But the gospel calls us from our vanity and turns it into seriousness. What are these laborers hired to do? They're hired to labor in the master's vineyard. The church is God's vineyard. The fruits of our work must be to his honor and his praise. We are all called upon to be laborers in the vineyard. The work of religion is vineyard work. It's to be kept and dressed for God. Men may go idle to hell, but he that will go to heaven must be busy. And what shall be their wages? Well, we see he promises a penny. And this isn't some way of pulling a fast one here. He's not literally paying them a cent. A penny, the Roman penny was the typical pay for a day's work. It was similar to the denarius. It's what they would typically receive. And we shouldn't get it wrong. These people receive money here, but we won't receive money in heaven. It's instead a way to show that there is a reward for our work. There's a reward that's set for us upon our deaths. God will not cheat those who work for him. There's a crown set before us, and that is a crown of righteousness. It's a crown which the righteous judge shall give. How long are these workers hired for? They're hired for a day. It is but a day's work that is to be done. And that doesn't mean a literal 24-hour day. That's our lives are represented by this day. The time of our lives is the day in what we must work the works of him that sent us into the world. It is only a short time, and the reward is for eternity. We have but little time to do the work, and night or death is coming, when no man can work any longer. So the second part of this parable is the account made with the laborers. When is the account taken? It's when evening comes. Workers are to be called and paid for their service. Evening time is a picture of the reckoning time. An account must be given up in the evening of our lives. For after death cometh the judgment. Faithful laborers shall receive their reward when they die. What is the general pay? It's in verses 9 to 10. It says, they received every man a penny. All that are by our patient continuance and well-doing. All that by patient continuance and well-doing. Seek for glory, honor, and immortality shall undoubtedly obtain eternal life. And that's in Romans 2:7. We're not receiving this as wages for the value of our work, but as a gift of God. Though there are many degrees of glory, we all obtain complete happiness. And this includes those who come from the east and the west, or who come in late. We all receive the same joy. This giving of a whole day's wages to those that have not done a full day's work, it's designed to show that God distributes rewards by His grace and by His sovereignty. As some were offended with this distribution to others, we have the offense taken. Verse 11 and 12. They murmured at the good man of the house. These laborers were discontent, and they were murmuring concerning heaven and the whole, and while they were still in the world. This signifies a jealousy which the Jews were provoked to by the admission of the Gentiles into the kingdom of heaven. As the elder brother in the parable of the prodigal son, who was angry at the reception of his younger brother back home and complained of his father's generosity. The laborers quarrel with their master because others are made equal with them. They boast of their own good service. They say, these last have worked but 1 hour, and that too in the cool of the day. And yet thou hast made them equal with us. The Gentiles and those newly called in, they have as much privilege of the kingdom as those who had so long been laboring in the vineyard of the church. The Master answers this protest in verses 13 and 14. He asserts his own justice. And he says, "Friend, I do thee no wrong." He calls him his friend. Even among these accusations, this master speaks calmly to them. God can do no wrong. His word is meant to silence all our murmurings. We can be sure that he does us no wrong. If God gives his grace to others instead of us, he's showing kindness to them and no injustice to us, because it is free grace, and therefore our murmurings are excluded. Master refers him to the bargain. Says, "Didst not thou agree with me for a penny?" And this is showing that he had no reason to fret. God will always honor his agreements. And it's good for us to consider what we agreed on, agreed with God for. Some agree with God for a penny in this world. They choose their portion in this life, and they will receive it. And by giving this reward, God does them no wrong. They agreed on their compensation, and they received it, so they have no room to complain. Obedient believers, however, agree with God for a penny in the next world. And we must remember that. The parables of Jesus teach valuable life lessons, but some are confusing. In today's, the vineyard owner seems to treat his best workers unfairly, and it's only natural that we want things to be fair, especially when it comes to how we're treated. Today's parable illustrates fairness but not as humans gauge fairness. And it says God gauges fairness. We'll now conclude by looking at some lessons learned. The first being that God's way is not like ours. It is human nature to feel slighted if we feel that we've been given less than, or if we feel our work isn't valued. But God's nature is not the same as ours. In His divinity, He chooses what we receive in ways that we don't understand. He gives to each according to His divine insight. If we perceive that we worked harder or longer than others, it doesn't necessarily mean that our reward will be more than theirs. It's a challenge as humans not to focus on what we perceive to be fair, but instead to focus on developing a relationship with God. A relationship that makes us thankful for everything that we receive. We should trust that He knows what's best for us. Our second lesson is that God may not give equally, but it doesn't mean it's not fair. A kingdom has order and structure. In the heavenly kingdom, Jesus sits at the right hand of the Father. And we don't all sit next to God. Everything is not given equally or according to our effort. But that doesn't mean it's unfair. Another example is Jesus explains heaven in Matthew 19. The faithful apostles, they sit on thrones and they judge the tribes of Israel. There's no throne reserved for us. It's not all given equally. Jesus also says there's a first and a last, which implies a ranking, order, which again is not given equally. Even with these inequalities, those in heaven they all enjoy the beautiful reward of eternal salvation without the jealousy of what God gives others. We can always expect our God to reward us fairly for a contribution to His kingdom. May not be equal, but it's fair. And that's what we can expect. Our third lesson is that God is sovereign. He has the right to do what He wants. As the Almighty Creator, He knows what's best and is true to His word. If He makes a promise, we can be assured that He will do it. He will fulfill that promise. If He withholds something you pray for, we can trust that He has a reason. We should trust His will and accept His decisions. Be thankful for the blessings He's bestowed in our lives.